We are back with another review, and today we got a little different kind of review here. This one's a little bit more of a serious review. We're going to be talking today how Coppa, the new effects on YouTube going into 2020, are going to be affecting Funko collectors, toy reviewers, pretty much everything in regards to YouTube, the platform, and creators. So without further ado, let's hop right into this review, and today let's talk about a few things. So I'm not going to go through everything. I mean, there's tons of channels out there that are actually going to be talking about Coppa and how it kind of works together and what its intended purposes are and how we got to this point. And I'm going to leave all of those down in the description below. So go check that out in the description. Also in the pinned comment, we'll have all the same information. So if you just want to see the information in regards to this video, go check out the pinned comment, but it's also in the description as well. So as you know, I do a lot of reviews on this channel, whether it be collectible toys or toys, video games, any type of consumer product that I really deem that I want to review. I'll bring it on the channel here and share it with you, the audience. Now, there are a lot of different genres out there that people might think that they're being affected by this particular new policy, and some people might be like, well, hell no, my content isn't intended for kids. I'm just going to click no for all my videos. I don't want any whiny brats on my videos, yada yada yada. I've heard tons of things in regards to Coppa and the rollout of all these things, and how channels are adapting their channels or they're abandoning their channels. They're doing one of two things. So basically the barrier to entry and to stay into the market is definitely narrowing, because you have to definitely adapt and change your channel. Because at this point, I will go into this part, a lot of the liability is now left up to you as the creator. Now, when it comes to reviewing things like, let's say Funko Pops, let's grab a Funko Pop over here. We got 8-bit Jason Voorhees. So we got 8-bit Jason Voorhees. If you review Funko Pops, it's very interesting to think about some of the toys that they have out there and which toys are considered toys or which ones are not considered toys, which figurines are considered collectibles and which ones are not. Now, Funkos as a whole, I would not say are all going to be lumped into the category of these are all collectibles, because there's definitely Funko Pops out there that are intended for kids. And I think the majority of the reasons why a lot of them do have a type of an age restriction on them is due to the types of parts they have. They might have sharp corners or points on them, and they have to set different types of age restrictions. I think that's one pathway down to, when it comes to which type of age a pop should go down. The other one is going to be maturity level. Is this pop intended for a mature audience, or is it intended for, a child audience? And then they draw the line there and say, no, this is only for mature audiences. This would be one pop that I would say would be intended, in my opinion, for a mature audience. It's a horror pop. There's no date in the corner here. That's why I left my thumb there. There's no date in the corner. On most pops where they know they're intending it for a mature audience, they put the date there. Now, the reason I don't understand this pop particularly, I think this one was either mismarked or it wasn't done properly, because this one on the bottom is marked 3+. Now, 3+ for me, I don't believe that is an appropriate thing. One, because the knife is a very sharp point on this. And two, Jason Voorhees is made for an intended mature audience. So putting 3+ on here, it's kind of leaving the whole window open to interpretation, saying, well, Funko says it's 3+, but it's intended originally for a mature audience. It's got this really sharp point on the front where a kid could get hurt, poke their eye out, or hurt themselves in some fashion. There are stipulations, there's arguments that could be made in regards to this particular pop. And then there's more cut and dry pops where it says, okay, this pop is clearly intended for a mature audience. Here we got Space Marine from Doom, 17+. 17+. He doesn't really have any sharp objects. The shotgun, I guess, could be broken or bent out and could be swallowed and choked on. I mean, there are things that are in this that I guess could break off. I mean, the head can come off on any of these pops, but and I guess a kid can have it lodged in their mouth or their throat. But this one particularly, I think this one was marked 17+ due to the mature content and the mature nature of the pop. So I do think that there are different stipulations. So let's look at some other variations of pops and some of the age requirements that are on them, and then we'll go into some other different types of toys. And I'm going to show you some examples, and then we'll kind of recap a little bit of what we got going on here. So we have the very bizarre Jason Voorhees pop right here that has a 3+ mark on it, which in my opinion, I don't believe that it should be 3+. It should be definitely 14 plus or 17 plus. It's definitely, the series is intended for a mature audience, just like Doom. And this has actually a sharp pointed, point on the pop itself, which would be the knife that clearly sticks out in a straight on protruding fashion. So there's those two pops, 17 plus pop Doom there. Now we have Batman the Animated Series. Now this one is a 14 plus pop. Now it's a Batman pop, and I've noticed actually, if you do have a Batman collection, and you can check out some of your Batman pops, a lot of them have 14 plus on the pop itself. Now, due to the dark nature of the Dark Knight himself and the actual Batman, comics, the graphic novels, they're not intended for someone under the age of 13. But there are certain shows like Batman the Animated Series that might be intended for children under the age of 13. That's what the show was created for. It was for kids under the age of 13 to get into Batman. So when they get older and, mature more, they get into the comic books, the graphic novels, maybe the movies. But here we have 14 plus. Now, you look at this and you're saying, oh, well, the pop says 14 plus. That means I can review it on the channel. The cutoff's 13 in regards to the marketing to or advertising to or the structured ad formats that they're rolling out for kid-intended content. Oh, it's 14 plus. This is definitely a pop I could review on the channel. I don't know. I mean, it's open to interpretation, because to me personally, I interpret this as it's 14 plus due to the nature of the fact he has huge horns on his head and a kid could poke his eye out. He's got pointy horns. That could be the 14 plus, or the fact that Batman is intended for a mature audience. Even though this is the animated series, Funko Pop of Batman, it says 14 plus on it. So it's open to interpretation. The cutoff is 13 in regards to like what is kid, related content or kid geared towards content. 13 is the cutoff, is what they're saying, because 13 is the legal age you're allowed to join YouTube. So here's another example. So here we have the Negatron. This is Darkwing Duck, and it says 3 plus here on the corner of the pop. So 3 plus, anyone over the age of 3 can play with this toy. But is it intended for a child? I don't know. To be honest with you, it's like a hot potato. Anything with Disney on it is pretty much going to be flagged for me on my content on my channel. Anything that has Disney involvement in it, in regards to like cartoons or anything like Disney movies or something like that, I'm going to be very selective on how I discern which ones. But for the most part, if it's Disney, like if it's Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, I'm going to have to mark it as intended for children. And that sucks, because, that's content that's, I enjoy those fandoms, and I enjoy talking about those fandoms and collecting those, and it would be neat to share those with you on the channel here. But in regards to like me putting myself at a liability by marking it not suitable for children, then it doesn't gain, it'll gain all of its momentum that the video would normally get, because it doesn't have any, type of restrictions on the video. Then it might take off, and then before you know it, then I get a fine for it. So for me, it's easier to just not deal with this type of content on the channel. It sucks because, again, like I said, I do like Disney, material. Now, Disney as an umbrella as a whole, do I count every single pop out there that's Disney, like Marvel and Star Wars, as Disney? No. Do I think the Mandalorian show and the Mandalorian pops are intended for an adult audience, or just an audience above the age of 13? Absolutely. He's on a chain gun, like right around shooting people. He's stabbing people. All kinds of stuff's happening. It's violent content. That type of situation, I would say, yeah, on my content, on my channel, if I'm reviewing Mandalorian pops or Mandalorian figures or something like that, I would assume to myself, yes, I'd probably be able to present this on the channel and say it's not intended for child audiences, depending on the specific figure, I guess you could say. That's not everything either. So again, it's, as a creator, you're going to have to go through your channel and you're going to have to figure out what content that you're putting up is intended. Now, as a whole, you could mark your entire channel as one thing and go through and change individual videos that you might, I personally would recommend doing that. I have almost 1,000 videos on my channel. It's a lot of content, okay? So I originally went through and marked all my content as not intended for children, and then I went through and I had about 30 videos that I thought was teetering. And if it's teetering, I kind of just flagged it and put it aside. I made a list of those, and I'm kind of going through them and watching the videos, seeing how they're presented, seeing the content of them. Like, I did a playthrough of DuckTales Remastered on Xbox. Now, that video is just gameplay, no commentary. But to me personally, I'm gonna say I'm gonna mark it as, you know, intended for children, because DuckTales itself is a cartoon intended for children. It's a Disney property, Disney cartoons. The game itself plays like a cartoon. Kids, I imagine, would watch that, and kids probably have watched that video. So I'm gonna mark that, me personally, on my channel. That's something that I'm drawing the line and saying that's something that's definitely intended for kids. When it comes to like vaulted Scrooge McDuck Funko Pop, talking about his value, I think that's a little bit different, but again, it's open to interpretation. That's something where I'm still in the process of weighing those options in regards to, like, is this openly a collector's thing? And if it isn't openly a collector's thing, does the property itself make it like not a collector's item? Like, because it's DuckTales and Disney, it's probably not going to be a collector's item unless it's like, I don't know. I don't really know, honestly, because it's something you honestly would want to talk to your lawyer about. But here we go. We do have Scrooge McDuck, the Vaulted Scrooge. And here he is right here. It sucks because I just did a review on the channel with Vaulted Scrooge. And I had a video planned where I was doing the entire DuckTales line of pops. And I was going to do a review of them. I was going to take them all out the box and show them to you. I mean, I had Tailspin. I was going to do... There's a lot of stuff, and I still am going to do those, but it changes up the way that I present them, and now how the way they're going to basically appear to you, because they lose a lot of their momentum going forward when you mark it and designate it as for children. I mean, it's not just the ads that are going to be changing on the particular content. It's the way the content is seen in the algorithm. You lose your end screens, you lose all your info cards, you lose comments. There's a lot of things that get taken out of there. That kills the momentum of the video. So it's something that I will put up, but I'm just going to make sure that when I do put it up, when I do the entire DuckTales line of pops for you guys on the channel, I'm just going to designate the video as for children, which it's whatever. The ad revenue will still be on the channel, will still be on the video, I should say, but it's going to be a different type of ad revenue. It's going to be contextualized ads versus personalized ads, which is still ads, it's still ad revenue from that particular video. But the thing that I have a problem with is the fact that how it kind of kills it in the algorithm to make it so that the video kind of doesn't really gain any type of momentum going forward, and like words like going viral, I guess you could say. It kind of kills that capacity. It's almost like a demonetized video. Or an age-restricted video. You have to basically seek out that video to view the video. It's not going to be something that's going to be just like thrown in your face, because you have to also think from a business point of view. YouTube is only going to want to put the content in your face that they're making the most revenue from as well. So, I mean, it's all part of the whole thing, but YouTube's basically saying, we're not going to be responsible for this type of content anymore. We're not going to pay out $170 more million in fines. You, the creators, are now responsible for what you put on the channel. If you're going to be monetized or not, it doesn't matter. So that's another thing too. A lot of people are like, well, my channel's not monetized, it doesn't matter to me. It does matter. Everybody is held to the same standard when it comes to these rules. So let's pull out another one, which is a little bit on the fence to me, and then we'll move on to another type of toy or another type of genre that is being held in the question here. So this is an Elvira pop. Now, clearly you can see the cleavage on this pop is something that's like, I would say, mature, right? On the bottom here, I'm seeing 3+. So they want 3-year-old playing with Elvira. You know what I'm saying? Again, something to me where it's like, I would say this is a mature audience pop. This is a mature pop. This is something that you don't see 3-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 13-year-olds waiting in line at a Comic-Con to go get Cassandra Peterson's autograph. You see 50, 40-year-old men, 30-year-old sweaty dudes. You see, women, men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, you're not seeing 13-year-olds beating down the doorstep to go get Cassandra Peterson's autograph. So the audience of what Elvira is pulling. So if I do a pop review on Elvira, am I going to mark this personally as something that's intended for children? No, I'm not. This is not intended for me personally. This is my opinion. Again, do not take this because I could be wrong too. You know what I'm saying? But me personally, in my deduction of everything, this is not intended for children. You know what I'm saying? This particular pop. This is Elvira. I mean, look at the cleavage on her. Definitely not intended for children. The pop is definitely a mature pop, but they say 3+. And I think that their basis for doing some of these things, again, are going to be 3+. It's not really dangerous. There's nothing chokeable on here. Nothing's going to break off. That the head is so large, it's not going to be choked on by a kid. Her hand might poke your eye out, but it's doubtful. It's not. I think the 3+ is based off of the amount of damage a kid could do to themselves if they were left alone with this thing, versus like them being hypersexualized by Elvira's cleavage. You know what I'm saying? I think that's something that needs to come into play when it comes into rating these types of toys. But what I'm going through with all these toys that I'm going to be showing you here, and things that we're going to be going through, are going to be indicators for me of how I'm going to gauge my content and types of things that I share on the channel. Next thing we're going to talk about here is going to be video games. So I got some video games here. I got a nice little stack of games. We're gonna go through about 6 of these, and I'm gonna show you a few things on each one of these. So right off the bat, straight out the gate, here are some things that I'm probably not going to be on my channel. Okay, my channel specifically, when I do reviews and playthroughs of these are probably going to be games that I'm not going to be marking as not kid friendly. So these are going to be like kid friendly, I guess, content. So for example, let's do the first one here. On PS4, I do have on the docket, I was going to do the Spyro Reignited trilogy. This is rated 10 plus, E for everyone. Okay, this would be something that, I mean, me personally, I think this game, if I was, and you got to also understand something too, there's also going to be people who are not you watching your content without the context that you're putting into it. Okay, yeah, you might be a vintage video game collector or player, but when you have a game like this, which is clearly like a cartoonish type dragon, which would appeal to children, this would be something that I would mark as kid friendly when I do the playthrough. Me personally, on my channel, in my opinion, this is what I would mark as something that's like kid friendly. Something like Secret of Mana, this is 10 plus. It is cartoony the way it's presented in anime fashion. The cutscenes are very anime. This is going to be something that is on the fence for me, open to interpretation. It's an RPG from Squaresoft. It's a game that I cannot see a kid playing this game. Although I played it in my early teens, and I was able to beat the game, but it's not something that I would say would be geared towards kids. But again, it's something that someone who's not you might not interpret that as that. They might say, yeah, cartoony, it's anime, it's for kids. So this is another one that I probably will mark as kid friendly because of the way that it's presented in a cartoonish type fashion or an anime style. Next, we have another one, which is cartoonish and a comic and a Marvel comic. We have Spider-Man here. Now, this is rated T for teen. Now, to me, T for teen, it's got blood, drug reference, language, and violence. To me, T for teen, this is something where I'd say not intended for kids. This is not intended for kids. Just because some parents decide to let their kids play games like this who are under the age of 13 does not mean that this game is intended for children. Okay, this is rated for teens. T for teen. 12 is not a teen. 13 is a teen. But again, it's intended for teens. Another game like that would be Transformers Devastation. It's got a T for teen right here because it has fantasy violence. Now, this game is a little bit different because this one plays like a cartoon, like you're playing a cartoon. So it looks like a Transformers episode. But this is rated for teens. So this might be one that you might say is on the fence because it's rated teen, 13. It might be 13. It's, again, open to legal interpretation. That's why you should consult your lawyer in regards to some of the content, or pay a lawyer for consultation and just kind of briefly go through all the fine points of your channel and the types of videos that you review and see what type of route you should go with your channel. But this is something where it's like open to interpretation. Is Transformers Devastation and Spider-Man? I mean, Spider-Man, to me personally, is not a game for 13 and under, because I've played the game. I know exactly the type of themes and things that happen in that game. It's not a game that you would have someone under the age of 13 playing. Transformers Devastation, yeah, it does have fantasy violence. I mean, you're like beating stuff up, you're like blasting stuff off platforms. I mean, things are falling to their death. Things are happening in this game too that you might not want to expose your under 13 or 13-year-old too. So open to interpretation. But here are some games that are not open to interpretation. Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Mature, 17 plus. I have a playthrough of Gears of War on my channel right now. I'm playing through the game right now. I'm in the last part of it. This is a game that I'm not marking as intended for children. This is a clear indicator for me right here. This is a 17 plus mature title. This is a game that is not intended for children. So my gameplay and commentary of this particular game is not going to be a video that I'm going to mark that is intended for children. It is not intended for children at all. There's no crossing of the boundary there. There's no clear misinterpretation. If you let your kid play this game and they're 13 or under, I mean, there's other questions and other problems going on that need to be asked and things that need to be addressed over a content creator uploading their playthrough of Gears of War Ultimate Edition. So next game that we're going to talk about, and last one that we have here, is going to be Doom. This is Doom. On the inside here, I have the variant cover exposed here, but on the inside here you can clearly see it's got an M rating as well, which is 17 plus. Another game where it's an open shut case. If I have Doom on my channel, this actually might cross into the next sector, which is going to be, does this need to be age restricted in regards to it being 18 and over because of the gore and violence that's in it. But as of right now, it's a 17 plus game. So there you go. You have something like that. That's a clear case of, is this intended for a kid? No, Doom is not intended for a kid. So that's something where it's a clear cut case of no. So next, I wanted to go through a few other toys. I'm going to try to keep this video very short, under 30 minutes, because it's difficult to talk about this type of magnitude of a subject without going through some examples and kind of hashing things out a little bit. So and everyone else basically is doing content about this. It's all been around 30 minutes, which is kind of crazy, but at least I'm not going through the preamble, which is explaining everything about the law, because that's something you can do in your own time, or you've probably already heard already. But let's go through some other things that I review on this channel in regards to toys, games, collectibles. We're going to look at some things. So first thing we're going to talk about is a board game that I reviewed on this particular channel. This is the Fanny Pack game. Fanny Pack is back. This is a game which has very bright and vibrant colors, and some might say, oh, well, this is intended for kids. Kids could play this game, right? Wrong. Kids cannot play this game. This is rated 14 plus. The cutoff for kids, YouTube is saying, if you're under the age of 13, you're not going to be able to register on the site. So if this game is being reviewed on the site, it's clearly for ages 14 and up, then it's clearly intended for people 13 and over, or 14 and over for sure, but at least 13 and over for the site. So not intended for kids, not to be on YouTube Kids. This would be something, if I did this, even though it has bright, vibrant colors, there's probably mature themes inside this little fanny pack. And inside the fanny pack, on those cards, might have some sexual innuendos or some kind of themes that might be on these cards that are not suitable for people who are under the age of 14. That's why there's a designation for that on this particular toy. This is, again, a toy that I would say, if I did a review on this, not intended for kids. Even though it's got bright, vibrant colors, not intended for kids. Let's go over something else. Here we got a Star Trek sealed, it's got a hardback on this. Playmates 4 and up on this figure. This is a show with non-cartoon characters. It's intended for a mature audience. I mean, I don't know how you're going to be able to follow the story if you're a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. You're going to follow the Next Generation saga. Good luck. But needless to say, Playmate says that a 4-year-old and up can play with this toy. And again, I think it's because it's the parts. And I don't know why they said 4, because I can definitely see a 4-year-old choking or swallowing this little phaser or this little computer. I mean, I don't know why that they would designate that, or there's like even a stand base in there that a 4-year-old could probably choke on. But that's neither here nor there. Playmates is saying that this is an age 4 and up toy. Now, again, it's clearly a Star Trek toy. This is something that you wouldn't even see anyone under the age of 13 playing with, or even having the concept to grasp everything that's going on in the show itself. Would you say that this, as a collector, would be something that is intended for kids? That's up to you. But according to Playmates, they're saying 4 and up on this in regards to who can play with this. So if they're saying a 4-year-old or can play with this, I mean, what about a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old watching it on YouTube? So that's another thing too on that. I mean, if you review toys, that's something you got to look at very severely. Here's another toy right here. We got Steve from Minecraft. Now this says 6 and up on it. Now I think it has 6 and up because of the sword there. The sword looks like it has a nice point on it. But Steve from Minecraft, this is Minecraft right here. If you were to review this particular toy on your channel, even though you might be a collector, and this might be for your personal collection, you might be a 38-year-old sweaty dude sitting in an apartment collecting Minecraft figures. I mean, not trying to make a joke of it, but to be honest with you, like, I'm trying to go to the far extreme, to the point where the situation is so far from being a kid who collects this, that it's so ridiculous for that person to think that it's intended for kid, because they're a collector. They bought it for themselves. But on this particular toy right here, it says it's rated for 6+. And then people who have kids, or have kids that have Minecraft, and they're definitely under the age of 13 and they play Minecraft. So if you reviewed this toy, technically in the eyes of the law, you probably would be making a video that's intended for kids. And if you do that and get ad roll on this, or it's misdesignated as not for kids. So even though you might not be monetized and you say, okay, I have 500 subscribers, I'm not even monetized, I'm going to do this and say it's not designated for kids, so I can get the, the end cards, the everything, the, the eye cards in the corner up here, the end screen, the end, roll. But if you misdesignate something like this, you say it's not for a kid, even though you're not monetized, you can actually get your channel removed from the platform. So even though you might think you're doing your due diligence by saying, nah, none of my content's intended for kids, if you misdesignate content on your channel as not intended for kids, even though it is intended for kids, your channel could literally go down overnight, especially if you have like multiple offenses and they find them all at once. Your channel will just be gone overnight. So it's why risk your channel with stuff like this? It's such small things you can adapt and overcome. It's going to be stressful at first because nobody really knows what exactly to do, because no one's lived through it yet. It's not January, but here we go. We got Hot Wheels 3+. So, you know what I'm saying? You review Hot Wheels. You're going to probably have to designate this to be kid friendly because it's Hot Wheels. You know what I'm saying? It's something like that. If you review Hot Wheels, even as a collector's point of view, you're probably going to have to designate this as intended for children. If you do custom Hot Wheels, that might be different. If you do if you paint your own Hot Wheels, or I don't know, I don't want to go into things that I don't really know, but if you do customs on things, I don't know how that works. You might want to consult a lawyer. Like if you do custom toys, that might be custom kids toys. The custom thing, the whole custom scene, I imagine, is probably something that might be different versus you doing a toy review where a kid might watch the review to buy the toy. So next we got Legos. Here we got a Lego system. This Lego system has a clear age range on here from 5 to 10 because they probably assume that's the range where kids won't be, completely swallowing all their Legos. And there are small pieces in this particular set, but again, if you build or assemble Legos, I imagine most of your Lego content is probably going to be made for kids because most of them have these age ranges on them. The ones that have a higher age range would probably not be designated for kids. There's, mature Legos 13 and up, some of the Technic series, I imagine might be something you can get into if you do Lego reviews. But as of something like this right here, this would be something you'd probably have to designate for a kid. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going off what I've read and the research that I've done on this particular subject because I needed to figure out how I need to guide my channel. And hopefully some of this information will help you and how you're going to guide your channel going forward. So next, I'm going to do something I did recently, which is going to be this Midway Arcade mystery box. This has a bunch of little items in there, and, it's a mystery arcade box. But let's check out the age that Midway puts on here, 14+. When I make this video and I drop this video, I'm going to designate this video to be not intended for children because it clearly says 14+ on the particular box itself. The toy itself is not intended for anyone below the age of 14. So that's a clear-cut draw right there, a clear-cut case that toy is not intended for a child. So next, we're going to look at something else. These are going to be a highly reviewed thing on this particular platform, and that is Star Wars Black Series figures. Here we have the Mandalorian box. But on the front here, it says 4+. Now, again, the show itself is a mature-themed show. I personally would assume this would be a collector's item, and this would be something that would not be held liable. But again, I don't know in regards to the eyes of the law if somebody's going to say, hey, that's a Star Wars Black figure there. That's an adult collectible right there. Or is it just a regular figure on the regular line? Do you know what I'm saying? A regular 6-inch figure. I mean, they're not comparing sizes and going, oh, well, that figure he's reviewing in that video is a Star Wars, Black Series collectible figure. It's intended for adults and, this, that, and the other. No, they just see a figure in the video and they flag it as look, this guy's reviewing a toy review and it says it's not intended for kids. He's lying, so it's a violation. Then you get a $42,000 fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's a little bit, ridiculous in regards to like how it's interpreted, but it's something where you're going to have to make that call and that decision yourself. Where do you lie in regards to your videos and the type of content you're putting out? Even if your audience doesn't have any kids watching the videos, it's not about who's watching your videos and the clump of audience that you have. Because my audience right now, I don't have anybody below the age of 20 in my majority bulk of my metrics. When I'm looking at my metrics, less than 2% of my audience is below the age of 20, which is like nobody. So primarily adults are watching my content. Like 99% of it pretty much is adults. So but it says right here it is not 0 to 3, and that's because of the small little pistol that he has and probably the points on the rifle, which is, you know, neither here nor there. But this is another thing where it's like, you're going to have to judge for yourself where you lie on reviewing like Black Series figures. Now, here's another one that I would interpret as a mature toy. Now, this would be something that if I was making the content as a content creator, if I reviewed my Doomslayer figure, when I upload the video of this, I'm going to mark it as not designated for children. It clearly says 14 plus on here, not a toy. It's not a toy. So again, if you were to get challenged and you went to court or something, because this might have got flagged as a toy, that's a clear defense right there. I mean, a lawyer would definitely use that in their defense. You're reviewing a collectible, and it got mass flagged as a toy. But this would be something that if you designated this as, your review of this as, not intended for children, you most likely would not be in violation. So this would be a good example right here of a toy review that you can do. It literally says not a toy. So it's not a toy, but it's an adult collectible. Let's call it that. Let's call it an adult collectible, but it says not a toy on here. Even though it says McFarlane Toys on the side, that's the brand of the company that he has. Okay, so not a toy, 14 plus. I would mark this and designate this not intended for children. I kind of hope that some of the examples that we have been going through on this channel so far is helping out people kind of understand. I have one more example of content that I want to go through real fast, and then we'll kind of do a little recap and then end the video because it's a long one. But next thing I want to talk about is board games. So here we have a board game. I review board games on this channel as well. So this is something that if you were going to review the board game The Grape Escape, even though it might be informative, informational, this would technically be intended for children because the ages on here is 5 and up. You are well below the 13-year-old range. You're talking like way below the 13-year-old range. So this isn't something like, you're playing a video game that has violence and stuff like that in there, and it's kind of teetering in the middle. This is a board game where it's kind of like cut and dry. This is a kid's board game. If you're going to review this, you have to designate that this video is intended for kids, which even though you might not have the intention of making this for children, it's in itself attractant to kids, which is what the problem is. It's the attractability towards children, which is the problem. Now, next, we're going to talk about a board game that is definitely an adult board game. We're talking Magic the Gathering. Now, Magic the Gathering is not intended for children. As you can see right here, ages 13 and up. It has mature themes in it. There's sexualized nature of the art. There's artwork that has graphical and gore on the cards. So that is something where if I made a Magic the Gathering review, well, I used to do unboxings and stuff, that is mature content. This is age 13 and plus. So if I reviewed this board game review would be marked as not intended for children. Do we understand now? So intended for children, not intended for children. Now again, this is not me saying that this is the finite capacity of these things. But if I was to make an interpretation on my channel when I make uploads, that I would say the Magic the Gathering board game is not intended for children. But that Grape Escape, since it's such an interpretatory thing, I would say it would have to be intended for children because of the age range on it. Now here's another one. We have Splat. Splat is ages 6 and up. If I did a review on Splat, which I did do a review of Splat on this channel, Splat is a board game that, for me, I would mark this as intended for children. Even though I'm a collector, this is a collectible item to me. This is something, I'm over the age of 30 and this is mine and I play this. That doesn't matter because it is an attractant for kids. This is something that a kid would look forward to or see. The thumbnail or something and be attracted to want to check it out. And that's the problem, because once that person checks out this video, it's going to have personalized ads on it if it's marked as not, if this is marked as not intended for children, okay, and this a child sees Splat and goes to watch the review, they're going to get personalized ads, which means Google is going to be collecting personalized data from those people watching your video. So that's what I'm trying to explain here, that even if your channel is not monetized, if you misdesignate the channel as a whole or videos, you're still going to be in violation and be held to a fine. So it's not just something that, oh, if I'm not monetized, it doesn't matter. No, it's not true at all. So here we go. We got Dungeons and Dragons. This is a starter set. At the top here, we got age 12 plus. This would be another board game that if I reviewed this on the channel, I would not designate this as intended for children. It's not intended for children. This is a violent video game, board game, fantasy game, LARPing game, whatever. Dungeons and Dragons has multitude of platforms. There's VCR games on it. You definitely aren't going to want to intend that for children, so don't designate it wrong, I guess, by killing your momentum on a video like that, doing a review on that. But it's definitely not something that's intended for children. Here's another game we have. We have Dragon Master. This is a fantasy game of mythical cards and magical crystals. This is on here on this old vintage board game. It says ages 12 to adult. This is another board game, which I would say not intended for children. The complexity and the nature of this particular board game is not intended for children. The nature of this board game is not intended for children. They won't be able to grasp the concepts going on in this particular board game, along with the mature nature of the content of this particular board game. Not intended for children. So I would designate that particular board game review not intended for children. So we have one more board game here we're going to check out. We got Doom. Doom, of course. Doom is a cross-platform of not being intended for children, so it's perfect. Do anything with Doom, it's never going to be intended for children, because especially after all the legal battles in the 90s over Doom and how it was not intended for children. I mean, that's why we have the ESRB rating. That's the reason why we even have those ratings, T for teen and mature, is because of Doom. I mean, this is the main catalyst for that. And on the back here, let's check out what we got for the age range. Age range on the back here is 12 plus with the accompaniment of a guardian, which means even if you are over the age of 12, you need to be accompanied with a guardian because of the horror nature and the surrealness of the violence and gore of this particular game. So this is something that I would designate as not intended for children. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a few examples of different genres. We went through video games, we went through some board games, we went through Funko Pops, we went through action figures, we went through Legos, we went through Hot Wheels, we went even through some mystery boxes that you could pick up off the shelf at your local Target. It's very, very speculative, and especially when it comes to reviewing things like Funko Pops. If you're reviewing stuff like Disney and stuff, it's going to be, you're going to have to make that decision as a creator if you're going to put your content, your channel, and potentially your life on the line in regards to the amount of fines you could accrue if you designate too much content wrong. So it's a gamble, but YouTube is basically saying it's up to you as the creator to designate these types of things. We're not going to take the blows anymore for you as a creator in regards to the things that you upload on our platform. We took the fine, we paid it. Now it's up to you to make sure that your content is abiding by the law that they're going to be enforcing here and rolling out in force in January. Now, as of right now, this is filming this video in the middle of November. They are down and below. I'll leave all this information down there, please. But they are right now currently taking comments and questions directly to the FTC. So the Federal Trade Commission, you can contact them directly. I'll leave all the links below. They're right now having an open forum conversation about this, and you can mention to them, hey, I'm a toy collector. You need to designate that there's a specific, toy collecting, genre or category that should not be held under this appealing towards children. Like if it's a retro toy, kind of like a license plate, I look at it. Like if it's a retro toy, it might have appealed to kids back in the day, but a kid who is born now is not going to know what Splat is. Okay? Splat is a board game that came out in the 90s. And if you were a kid in the 90s, yeah, you knew that. So so Splat, yes, technically was attractive to kids in the 90s, but the game doesn't exist anymore. So a kid now wouldn't know what Splat is. It's got colorful characters on it, but yeah, I mean, it's a collector's item to me. So until they can designate saying, whether it's beyond a certain year, kind of like a car license plate where it's beyond a certain year, the car becomes an antique. Saying it's like beyond the standards that are being held for other cars because it's an antique. It's so old that it's on the road right now by the luck and the grace of God that it's driving on the road. So same thing with board games. The fact that this game is still around complete and I'm able to do a review on it from the 90s, it's almost over 20 years old now. It should be allowed to be on YouTube under a certain type of genre where I can nostalgically review a toy or a game that is no longer either being made or is out of production for a long enough period where I can designate it as not intended for children, I'm a collector. You know what I mean? So this is something that I hope it evolves to, and you can make that change happen by designating your comments all down below in those little links I'm going to leave down there for the FTC. And there's also going to be links down there to explain exactly what the rollout is. I'll even leave a link to some links to some videos down there of some other people who kind of go into their little spiel and their specific channels and like what they're going to be doing specifically. One of them is Pixel Dan, a great creator. He does toy reviews, and I know he's going to be weathering the storm. And it's interesting to take the perspective from a creator who has, you know, 250,000 subscribers. So he's somebody who reviews toys with a lot of subscribers. So he's somebody you probably want to go watch and see how he's going to be adapting his channel. Because those are going to be the channels that are going to be staying around, or the ones that are going to be adapting. If you don't adapt, you're going to get fines or you'll lose your channel, even whether you're monetized or not. So, you know, brush up on all the information that YouTube has put out there for you so that you can, you know, steer and gear your channel down the right direction. But, you know, if you really, really, truly have a lot of questions and you really don't know what to do, consult a lawyer. That's the best thing that you can honestly do in any situation. Even if you think you know the plan, you could always consult a lawyer and just say, listen, this is the plan that I have laid out for you to look over. This is how my channel is laid out. This is the type of content I plan on putting out. This is the type of content I currently put out. Where do I sit in regards to this rollout in January? And you can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And that might be the thing that makes you sleep better at night. It's just having somebody who's a lawyer just tell you, you know what, you planned it out perfectly. This is how I would expect you to do it if I was to give you advice. So, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. And if you have any changes, just come back and ask me and I'll answer your questions. That's probably the best case scenario versus you sitting home at night wondering if your channel is going to be gone, or if your content that you're uploading is being misdesignated. So these are things that I would definitely ask a lawyer if you're on the fence or you don't understand exactly how everything is going to roll out for you or your channel. So sorry this video was so long, but I had to go through everything for you because there's nobody really talking about it in the Funko and the toy community. And it's kind of disheartening because there's a lot of channels out there that, you know, have kids or children in their videos, you know, doing their mystery boxes or toy reviews with them, sitting next to them in the Funko community specifically, or doing Lego unboxings or quick builds with Legos. And these are things where, you know, if you have kids in your videos, it's going to attract other kids. It makes it intended for children. So these are also things too that you need to understand as well. I mean, they rolled out certain things, you know, back in the day with the Spider-Man and Elsa, you know, the second adpocalypse that happened. You know, you just need to be vigilant in regards to the content that you put out there and the things that you're putting in your videos. You need to understand what you're doing, and when you're designating intended for kid or not intended for kid, you need to understand what that actually means, because blindly just saying everything is not intended for kids because you don't want it to be intended for kids, that doesn't make it not intended for kids. Because again, Splat and The Grape Escape, I made these reviews and posted them over 2 years ago, and they were not intended for kids in the slightest. But according to the current guidelines, I have to designate these as intended for children because it's geared towards children. I mean, the age ranges on these board games are in kid age range. Whether I review a toy that's retro, but if it appeals to kids, it's going to be something that might appeal to kids now too. And that's something that, you know, you don't want to put your channel and your livelihood on the line by misdesignating something. So do your research, consult a lawyer, but just know it doesn't mean your channel's gone forever. You just need to be more vigilant with how you upload your content and the types of designations that you choose for your content. So it doesn't mean your channel's gone, doesn't mean you have to leave and abandon YouTube and woe is me and make all these videos, you know what I'm saying? Oh, the end of my channel, what am I going to do now? How tired are you of watching these videos of people who review toys or just, oh, I'm leaving, we're leaving the channel, we're leaving the platform, it's all gone. You don't even need to do any of that. You can actually just do how you're doing now and fine tune everything up, designate it all out properly. And if you're worried about monetization, start a Patreon, start a support network for you with your viewers. You know what I'm saying? You could do that right now. Just make sure the one thing that you do is designate your videos properly. So let me know down in the comments below if I missed anything on here, or if you have anything you want to add for people who might have watched this video. Let them know down in the comments below, and check out the pinned comment for all the information to all the relevant stuff that's going on right now to get yourself abreasted on Coppa and to know how the rollout's going to affect you in the future. And hopefully some of this these examples I gave you in this video kind of help you out a little bit. And if it did, let me know down in the comments below. And if you want more reviews like this, subscribe for more. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and have a great rest of your day.